that 95% of AI projects don't return an ROI. And in this video, I want to talk about how to be part of that 5%. My name is Isaac Hicks. I'm the CEO of a company called Autonomy. I've been working in the AI field doing implementations for 6 years, and I've done dozens of successful projects across mid-size and enterprise-level corporations. And I've also done a lot of cleanup work coming in and fixing AI projects that had a lot of promise but never actually went anywhere. All right, so let's talk about the number one thing that most operators get wrong whenever they approach the AI problem. So typically what this looks like whenever you are looking for an opportunity, how can I apply artificial intelligence technology in my business? What you do is you look through your business and you say, okay, well, what is not going well? What is less efficient than I would like it to be? And then you go to the market and you're like, all right, where is the product that can solve this problem? And there's hundreds and hundreds of AI products. There's more every day. So no matter what your framing of the problem that you're having is, you can probably find a product that has copy that is fairly convincing, that seems like they really know exactly what your fit is. And then you go and you get that product, the complexity just becomes extraordinary and it doesn't actually work out. Months of time is lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars is lost. The primary reason why this doesn't work is because commodity AI products solve commodity problems. You might have a couple of commodity problems. You might have things like, I wish I could have better SEO on my website. Better SEO is a commodity problem, and there are tools that are really just plug and play that you can get in artificial intelligence and boost your SEO. That exists. But a lot of times you're looking at something that is much more fragile, much more operational, and has a lot of very specific patterns, very specific things that need to be watched out for. There's going to be tacit knowledge that is included. All of these kinds of things give rise to a process that is more akin to using automation for the vast majority of the process, and then using AI only as a processing mechanism, so something that can standardize data or otherwise reformat things, or as an edge case exception handler, so that if something happens in the process and there are known ways of fixing it, the AI can just do that instead of having to get a human involved. Now, if you try to put too much weight on what the AI tools are doing in that process, that is where major failure can occur. And that is one of the biggest issues. So what I'd like to do now is go through a couple of places that are actually apt for, massive improvements. You can get a lot of ROI with artificial intelligence solutions versus areas where you're not really going to get that at all. So I prepared these notes to go along with this video. You'll be able to download them right in the link of the description, just a shareable Google Drive. So in this first table, we talk about what is a good candidate for artificial intelligence. And what you want to make sure of is 4 things. So it needs to be a high volume, highly repetitive process. If it's something that is very time consuming, but the iteration cycle is very large as opposed to very small, then it's not really going to be as good of a candidate. If there's something that has to be done every day, every week, every 2 weeks, you have some kind of process that is very labor intensive but continuous, that is a very good opportunity. Now, rules. So we want definable, documentable rules. Now, the kind of gold standard for this, what you really want to look for is you should have a process that is so clearly definable that you can document it in such a way that somebody who has never worked for your company, doesn't know who you are, but is sufficiently competent, could come in and do the job based on that document alone with no other external help. No training, no guidance, no this is how we do things, just the document. If you can offload that task at that level, you have a very good candidate for automation. If you can't, you either haven't documented clearly enough, or there are enough unknown unknowns or enough human judgment that this isn't really a candidate for AI and automation. Now, error tolerance. If there are errors that are small, the errors are easy to correct, because what will happen is the error rate will reduce from what you're typically looking at from a human-based error rate, especially if it's something like reporting or something that's very data intensive, but it's never going to be 100%. There's no such thing as 100% accuracy. You might get the 99.99%. If there is an issue, it is something that is fixable. And even if it's, not the greatest thing that there was an issue there, it's issues that you already fixed and you're really looking at a reduction of issue rate down to something that is small, but not complete elimination. If it's something that requires absolute complete elimination, you're going to spend just as much time watching the AI process once you have it in place as you used to just doing the process. So there's no real win there. Lastly, current process, it exists, but it's slow. You don't want to create a new process from scratch with AI and automation. That's not going to get you anywhere, because much of the design of a process in the real world, whenever you're doing this in your business, it's going to be based on kind of figuring it out as you go. And all processes go through a series of iterative refinements before they become really stable. What you want to do is you want to have a process that is stable but slow and inefficient. And then you target that process directly, and that's where you're going to get your returns. And then your returns come in lower man hours spent on the process, the reconfiguration of spending those man hours on things that are actually going to drive bottom line growth, that kind of scenario. So let's talk about where it works and where it doesn't. So big place where it works is going to be in reporting and data consolidation. If you have a continuous process where you need some kind of executive reporting, some kind of preparation of a dashboard, some kind of consolidation of metrics for a client-facing report, an internal-facing report. If you're an operating company that operates under a private equity brand and you need to report up your financials, these are the kinds of things that are going to be very ripe for getting an ROI out of an AI-based system. Routine vendor and client communications. Now, when I say routine, I don't mean check-ins, hey, how are you doing, or responses to simple questions. That typically is not going to be a good customer experience. Say you have a vendor that supplies you some kind of product, and then whenever you get to a certain stock rate, you want to automatically reorder. Scan things out the door and your inventory decreases. There's a trigger that hits the automation to go ahead and write that. And then really the only thing that the AI is doing in that process is making the language sound a little bit more personal. And if you don't need that, then you don't even really need artificial intelligence. You can just go straight with automation for a process like that. Document processing. So if you have anything where you're going to receive invoices, records, some kind of application statement, something like that, where you have a very administration heavy, paperwork heavy kind of operation, then automating the process of getting that from the inbox into the database or into the management system. Your team likely spends a lot of time doing this kind of process manually. A lot of time there's mistakes that need to go back and be corrected. So this is another area that's like very ripe for this kind of automation. Then internal knowledge retrieval. So connecting all of your business systems into one area so that you can have more visibility and get a very quick and easy look at exactly what you need to do next, plan for hiring, firing, things like this. So being able to consolidate information and have real-time dashboarding, real-time alerts, real-time anomaly detection around different KPIs in your business that you already know, pay attention to, and make decisions based upon, that's a very good place as well. Now, a couple places where it doesn't work, but it really seems like it should. Everyone has the dream of being able to automate the direct outbound process, right? The process of being able to reach out to a ton of people, tell them what you have to offer, interest comes in, leads are pre-qualified and pre-vetted because of the personalization and the intent buying signals and all of that stuff, and that's great. But the thing is, there's just more of a lift there to make that actually work for marketing than you would expect. And you definitely do not want AI to be in charge of the actual outbound communication. And the reason for that is not necessarily just because people can tell, because people can tell right now, but as we go forward in time, AI will get better, communications will get better. But what they will be able to tell is that most people are going to be using AI-based messaging, and that's only going to increase over time. So no matter what happens from a marketing and evolution of business perspective, the new norm will be to use the AI-based copy. And if the new norm is the AI-based copy, that's what everybody is going to expect. And part of what makes marketing work is standing out from the crowd. There's kind of a fundamental misalignment of the way that area of the operation works and where AI can be effective. And this is actually one of the most common places where I see a lack of return when it comes to AI and automation, is attempting to automate communications that really need to be taken care of by a human. Another one is replacing roles that require a level of judgment that can only be achieved through actual tacit experience. If you are doing something that is like a very specific consulting initiative, something that really relies on deeper understanding than could be simply communicated to an artificial intelligence system, then you're not going to want AI trying to reason about things like strategy and market projections and what's going to work. You don't want to apply more nebulous kind of things that require the prediction of human behavior. You want things that are very deterministic, where these outputs go through this process and result in this outcome. It has to be very explicit. And if it's not explicit like that, then you're going to get eaten alive by edge cases. So you really don't want that. And then customer facing chatbots, it really depends on what people are typically looking at your support for. If a lot of your support cases are things like, hey, I got locked out of my account and I need a password reset, then those kinds of cases are very straightforward. If it's the kind of cases that is primarily just looking for things that are already covered in support articles, then that works. But if it's not covered in a support article and they do need actual human attention and you try to force them through a chatbot, that is going to absolutely destroy the customer experience. Your net promoter score is going to drop, and then your churn is going to go way up on your service. You really have to be intentional about where you try to do something like that, because you might introduce churn to such a degree that even if you aren't spending as much on support costs as you used to, the churn and the acquisition of new customers is going to destroy the margin that you were trying to build there. So once you've gone through the process of screening the different opportunities in your operation to see where you might be able to really get some decent ROI and where there is a good fit for an artificial intelligence or automation use case, the next thing you're going to want to do is determine whether to build this in-house, whether to find a product or a series of products to purchase and then put them together in order to fit your solution, or whether you would like some external guidance from somebody who has done this kind of thing and have them lead that implementation so that you can simply pay for the result instead of looking to build towards that outcome. So that is what I'm going to cover in the next video. You can contact me at my email address, which will also be down in the description, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding AI, automation, and how you can actually take advantage of what's going on right now in order to get ahead in your operations.